Lesson 2.2, Approximating Net Income. You're going to complete the warm-up independently, and you may reference your answers with my answer key. I'm going to start here at the bottom of the first page of the lesson, Determining Net Income. Complete the following table. The first column is the annual earnings for 3 individuals. So one person's annual earnings is $24,000, another is $37,520, and another is $63,800. Okay, and remember that annual means yearly. In 1 year, this is how much you make. In the second column, it's asking us to determine the earnings per week. Now remember, there are 52 weeks in a year. Okay, so taking the annual earnings, you can divide that by 52 to get the earnings for 1 week. So I'm going to do that for all 3 annual earnings. The next column, we're supposed to calculate the bi-weekly earnings. So bi-weekly again means every other week. Okay, so every other week, that means that you're getting paid half the amount of times if you got paid weekly. So if there's 52 weeks in a year, meaning that you get paid 52 times if you get paid weekly. So 52 divided by 2 is 26. So bi-weekly means that you get paid only 26 times in a year. Okay, so now I'm going to divide my annual earnings by 26 to calculate the bi-weekly earnings of these 3 individuals. Next column, earnings per pay semi-monthly. Okay, so semi-monthly means twice a month. So now we're going to calculate how many times in a year someone would get paid if they're paid semi-monthly. Okay, so there's 12 months in a year. Just looking over to the next column over here where this applies to that column. So if you're paid monthly, that means you get paid once a month. Okay, so that means you get paid 12 times in a year. Okay, so in this column, we're going to divide the annual earnings by 12. But in this column, if you get paid twice in a month, so there are 12 months in a year. So if you got paid monthly, you get paid 12 times a year. If you get paid twice a month, that means you're getting paid 24 times a year. So we're going to divide our annual earnings by 24. Now we've completed the chart, we're going to move on to question 2 on the next page. Complete the following table. Okay, so we're given an hourly wage and the number of hours per week. So in order to calculate the weekly earnings, we're going to multiply the first 2 columns together. So 11.25 times 20 would equal to your weekly earnings. Okay, now to determine the bi-weekly earnings, we're going to take our weekly earnings and multiply by 2. Okay, let's repeat for the next row. 15.15 times 40 will give us our weekly earnings. And then times 2 would give us our bi-weekly earnings. For C, the minimum wage currently in Ontario is $14. If you get paid $14 for 16 hours a week, that is $224 in that week and $448 in 2 weeks. The next is skills practice that you're going to be completing independently. You may reference the answer key for my answers. Moving on to the last page of this lesson, question 3. Complete the following table. So again, we're given the annual income. And this time, this is our gross pay. So remember, the gross means the amount of money on your pay stub before deductions. And then your net pay is the amount of money you would get paid after deductions. The amount of money that is actually deposited into your account, your bank account, is your net pay. Okay, so person in row A, their annual gross pay is $15,000. So I'm going to divide that. I'm going to divide my annual earnings by 52 in order to get my weekly earnings. And I'm going to do that for all of the annual gross pay amounts that are on the first column. I'm actually going to skip over this column for just a second, and I'm going to move over to our net weekly earnings column. Make sure that you're completing this table after you completed the skills practice section, because that's where you calculate the percent of your gross pay that you actually take home, your net earnings. Okay, so just to remind you of your skills practice observation, that we bring home approximately 74.49% of our gross pay. Okay, so to determine our net earnings, we're going to multiply our gross earnings by the decimal of 74.49%. Now I'm going to go back and complete this column right here. To complete this column, we're going to subtract our net weekly earnings from our gross weekly earnings to understand the amount of deductions that's taken away from us. Okay, so we know that it's about 74 or 75% that is taken from our gross earnings to create our net earnings. But how much is that actually? So we're going to take our gross earnings and subtract our net earnings to determine the difference. So the percent that is deducted from our gross earnings is 74.49%, or about 75%. And the reason why they deduct a percentage and not an amount is because everybody gets paid a different amount depending on your job. So person A gets paid much less than person F. So if they only deducted, let's say, $100 from everyone's pay, then person F is left with a lot more money than person A. $100 to person A is worth a lot more than person F, who's getting paid so much more. So that's what they do in a percentage, which means that the more that you get paid, that 25% that they take from you is a lot more money. So 25% for person A is only $73, whereas 25% for person F is almost $200. So for question 4, in general, the more money that you earn, the more money deducted from your pay. Okay. And there's 2 questions for check your understanding that you're going to complete independently. And then please reference my answer key to make sure that you got the correct answers for those. And then, of course, completed the daily quiz. And you're always welcome to message me if you have any questions.